Orcs Must Die. The idea is simple. Kill orcs. Kill thousands and thousands of orcs. But how you do it is the cool part. It's a combination of combat and placing down a variety of really cool traps.
Orcs have just really got to die. When I was a little guy, they actually killed my father, which is entirely untrue, but they're ugly and they stink, so I use that as an excuse.
Orcs are coming through the rifts. They're coming to our world. They're taking all the jobs away from humans.
I don't hate orcs. I just get an incredible thrill out of killing and maiming them.
Orcs Must Die is an important game for Robot Entertainment. It's our first original IP as a studio. Now, we have a long background of doing big RTS games like Age of Empires and Halo Wars, but to be able to work on a small game like this, about a year with a fairly small team, and bring out something unique with a lot of humor and a unique visual style has been really fun for the studio and sets us up to do some really cool projects in the future.
We talked about games that we've been playing ourselves lately. We've been playing a bunch of horde mode games, a bunch of tower defense games. And one of us had the idea, what if we tried to put those together? What if we brought the player down low inside of a tower defense game? You've got a level, and there's a beginning and an end to the level, and a series of enemies try to get from one side. And your job is to stop them in any way that you can.
The game is really a mix of action and strategy, and the traps are a huge part of the game. We really designed the game with the intent that you wouldn't be able to win with just weapons or traps. You'd have to use a combination of both.
Obviously, traps are a huge part of the game. How much should you be dependent upon traps? How much should you be dependent on running around as a player inside of that world? We're moving this game more into putting you down inside of the traps that you've placed. So you're both building the mousetrap and running around inside of the mousetrap.
You get to set up this defensive array of weapons to thin out the horde before they get to you and you fight them. Some of the traps we've got are things like blades that come out of the walls, and we've got spikes in the floor, we've got big pushing traps that'll push guys into pits of acid, we've got flip traps that fling them through the air, and there's all kinds of things like exploding barrel you can use to blow them into pieces. And there's a lot of really fun ways to make a big mess.
We would do a lot of playtests where we would play just with traps to see if you could beat it without ever having to do combat, and just with combat to see if you could beat it without ever having to do traps. And either one of those was a failure case to us.
One of my favorite traps isn't necessarily one of the finesse kind of traps. The wall blades, where they're stationed inside the wall, and as soon as somebody comes by, they just come flinging out, spinning and doing a lot of damage.
I'm a physics trap kind of guy. I spent an awful lot of time on many levels figuring out exactly how far bring traps flow guys so that I could set them up in sequence and have guys get hit by one trap and thrown to the next trap, and hit by the next trap and thrown to the next trap.
My favorite trap in the game is the auto ballista. The auto ballista is cool because it has a really powerful sound when it fires off an arrow. And when you know that arrow goes off, you know an orc is dying somewhere on the level.
My favorite combo that I've seen, someone use the fire bracer to light a wall of fire. The enemy's caught on fire, hit the tar and slowed down, hit a flip trap, shot through the air, and there was blades up on the wall that chopped them up. It was like making dinner. You literally cooked them and then chopped them up and served them on the platter.
As the War Mage works his way through the game, he unlocked a series of spells, including things like fire bracers that let him cast fireballs, walls of flame. He unlocks ice spells, which let him shoot hellbats out of the sky and freeze enemies as they're coming. So it's a pretty wide selection of stuff.
So with the spells, we knew we wanted to cover the basic elements. We knew we wanted lightning and fire and ice. The real fun that we had with that is kind of the alternate versions of those spells. One thing to just shoot a fireball or shoot a lightning bolt, but when you actually summon that lightning cloud and it's hitting multiple guys coming through the causeway, I mean, there's not much more that gets you fired up.
I'm still partial to the wind belt. I think that's still my favorite weapon in the game. It's not necessarily the most powerful weapon in the game, but it's one that you can do an awful lot of interesting stuff with. You can blow orcs over bridges, you can blow them into other traps.
I definitely find myself using the ice spell quite a bit. When you're kind of in the hallway and you just want to stop a guy while another guy's going, you can easily kind of say, hey, you wait there, I'll be right back as I take care of this, and then you go back and clean it up.
The Weavers in our fiction are a set of women on the far side of the rift back in your world. They're able to create upgrades for the War Mage that he can purchase as he moves through the game.
If you're a guy who uses a lot of spells, you can go that route and invest in getting more spells. If you like to use mechanical traps, you can invest that way. If you like to use guardians, things like that. And it lets you really sort of cater each level to how you want to play it out.
The Weavers were an interesting thing, especially from the art side. Some of the aspirations for what the Weavers wanted to be were quite grand at first. We wanted these empty rooms that were going to transform. We had like little gnomes kind of like making the traps. We had this actual forge that would show up and things like that. It really ended up being the clearest to just have a UI element, show the tech tree, and let the players go through there.
I really like using the Elemental Weaver. I load up with all the spells before I go into one of the big levels towards the end of the game, and then I buy that Elemental Weaver, upgrade all my spells, and then everything gets a lot better. The ice is better, the fire is better. It just makes the spells a lot more dangerous and a lot more potent.
I like the Knowledge Weaver the best. She has a lot of really interesting off-kilter stuff. She has abilities that give the Rift the ability to fight back a little bit against the orcs, let the player summon up zombie orcs from the remains of dead orcs that he's killed.
The enemies of Orcs Must Die were actually where we started. It's hard to focus on the main character when you're beginning the development on the art side. But from the enemies, you know that you want these bad guys, and it's always a little easier to show people what bad is, because everybody's got their own kind of opinion of what's good. We started with the orcs, we started with the ogres, and they just started to take on a life of their own. We had 6 to 9 different orcs, but every one of them looks like one that you just want to punch in the face, so it just all worked out.
It's called Orcs Must Die, but there's a lot more than orcs in there. We've got things like little kobold runners that are a total pain in the butt, and they run past you and sneak by. We've got huge ogres that'll come lumbering through the level, and if they catch you, they can be really difficult because they stun you. And we've got little flying units. We've got these hellbats that come in and they breathe fire on you, and their little wings are flapping all creepy.
The Hunter's probably one of our favorite units from the art side. There's something cold and calculated about the Hunter. He's the edge of the bad guys. Just one of those things when you're doing visual development and exploring some ideas, the ideas never stop with him. It was, oh, let's have him leap over, barriers. Let's have him howl as soon as he comes in. Let's have him stealth and come up from behind the player. We want him to be the hunter. We want you to be the prey. And as soon as you hear that howl, you kind of get that, what's coming?
Orcs Must Die will release this October on Xbox Live Arcade and on PC platforms like Steam.